Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Katie's Bits and Bobs. Now today we're going to take a look at a session that I did with my year 5 group. So it was children who are aged between 9 and 10. So this was a session that I did with them. I'm going to show you a few of the things that I did. So here's the planning sheet that I would work from. That was a guide of how and what I would do. So the first thing that we'd do is we would share our rules and sharing our news. We had our semantic links, so we were looking at smell. We would do our crossword. Now the last thing was describe how you would, but we didn't actually do that, so I'm not going to show you that today. So I'm just going to run through the session that we did. So if I take away this. So the first thing that we did was sharing our news. So I'll just write on a piece of paper like this. In the middle, it would have my holiday news. It would have the when, the who, the where, and the what. So in this group, I had 4 children. So they would each take it in turns and to share their news of what they did, who they were with, where they went, and when it was. And that was kind of thing just to kind of break the ice, make everyone feel comfortable and to get ready for the session. So that was the very first thing that we did. You could also include in that the emotions and how they feel. But I think because they were a little bit older, I didn't tend to do that. But you can do that, that's fine. So the next thing, so then what I would do is I'll tick that box. And the next thing was our semantic links and looking at smell. So I would give them a picture. So this was the picture that they were looking at. It's a kitchen scene. We have many items in here that have the smell. So we have the cake, there's food cooking, we have fish, the flowers, you've got fruit, you've got some air freshener and perfume, you've got some more flowers over here, you've got the bubble bath, you've got actually the bubble bath that can go in there. And I think this is a sock and an old boot. So the children would take a look at this. I'd give them a few seconds to have a proper look and see what they can find. And then I would ask them some questions. So each child would have to answer how many things they could see in the picture that is associated with smell. And I also had this tick sheet that I would keep. And each time they found an item, I would tick the ones that they had found and why they linked a certain item with a smell. So we have the air freshener, a boot, bubble bath, cake in an oven, car fumes. You have the chips, coffee, farmyard outside of the window. You've got the fish, the flowers, oranges, perfume, rose, soap, sock, and toast. So there's 16 items that they can find in all. For this session, the child found 13, which isn't too bad. So he missed off the bubble bath and the rose. So that's not 13. That's 14. That's fine. So it was 2 that they missed. Oh no, the oranges. So it was 13. They didn't choose any items that they could link to smell, but they found the items that were directly smell. So that was fine. So I would tick that off as I go to see how many they got. Now, if they find that a bit easy and they find most of them, then I would give them an extension. So my extension activities is still based on smell, but it's just asking a few more in-depth questions. So which items smell nice and which items are not so nice? So maybe they would say the cake smelled nice, but the farmyard didn't smell nice. Which objects always smell and which ones sometimes? What makes the item smell? So for example, when I push the top of the air freshener, that's what makes it smell. So it's getting them to think a little bit more in depth about the question and why the item does a certain thing to make it smell. What other things can be thought of that are associated with smell? These can be drawn or listed and discussed. So you can have an extra piece of paper, another sheet that the children can actually draw on that can be associated with smell as well. It says which items in the picture are not associated with smell. So for example, a book that necessarily wouldn't be associated with smell, or the curtains, anything like that. Which item does the child or adult own or have contact with? Where does the contact take place? So maybe the adult has contact with the child. This child has contact with the air freshener or the spring of the bottle there. So then again, it's getting them to think a bit more in depth about the question and getting them to look at the picture. Always tell them to look at the picture. The picture is what's going to help you. So for example, a home in the garden. At home in the garden. Number 7, what other concepts are associated with the item? So for example, the sock, it's small, it's soft, it's made of wool or cotton, and the rose, it smells, it's thorny, and it can grow. So again, as these were older children, these children were in year 5, it's getting them to think a lot more in depth about the questions that you're asking them. So that's just an extension of this piece of work here, and the children did quite well with that. There's loads of different scenes that you could actually get yourself, that you can make yourself. So just look things up on the computer or on Word, on Google, and just copy and paste from there. Just make sure you're careful where you get your images, as a lot of them will be copyrighted. Okay, so that was that piece. Now the third thing that we're going to look at is the crosswords. Now the crosswords are pretty good. So the crosswords were these. So each child would have one of these. If I bring it a little bit closer and you can see it. So the answers are words which mean the opposite of the clues. Now you've got to remind the children it's the opposite of the clues. So one across is something that's new. So the opposite to new would be old. Number 5 across would be over. So then they'd have to think of the opposite. The next one down, 6 across was late, 8 across, fast, and 9 across was trap. Now you've got to remind the children that you're thinking of the opposite things. 1 down is shuts, 2 down is sell, 3 down is subject, 4 down is agree, and 7 down is high. If I just place that down there. So on the whole, the children got it, and then they filled it in, they wrote it in themselves. So that's another good activity that you could do to end with. And the last thing I did with them is a little mind map. So as we're talking about, I'm thinking about smell again. So I'd have a picture of a nose in the middle, and then all the things that they could think of that were associated with smell. They could also use the picture from the previous activity to help them if they wish. But on the whole, they should be able to think of things that smell. That's just maybe a little bit of a reminder if they get a bit stuck. So that's some of the things that I did with my year 5 group. Now, I didn't always do this, but on some occasions I did. We would play this game. So I just got some pictures here of food items, of objects, of people, and made them into little cards and then laminated them so they last a lot longer. So for the game, I would get them to all put the cards together. I would give the pack to a child, so they would have that. They'd flick through and they'd pick an item. And then I'd get them to spread it out onto the table. And I'd made up some questions here. So I've just typed them on Word, printed them out. You could laminate these if you wanted to, but I didn't. And then the children who didn't have the card would ask the question. So, do I have 4 legs? Yes or no. The person with the card would answer. Am I a person? Yes or no, depending on which card they picked. So you've got all different questions here that they could ask. Can I fly? Am I something you eat? Am I a TV character? So once all the questions have been answered, hopefully they would then guess who the person, the object, or the character was. And then they would all play again. It was really fun, actually, because sometimes I would make a guess and it was just like, no, that's really not it. One of the pictures that I have here is of David Beckham. Now, us of a certain age know exactly who David Beckham is, But to an 8 and 9-year-old nowadays, not necessarily so. So it made me feel very old, but it was really good explaining to them who that person was and how well known they are. So that's some of the things that I did in my Year 5 speech and language group. Hope you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if you did, a thumbs down if you didn't like it so much. And don't forget to click the subscribe button. I'll also copy some links from resources that I've used in the comment box below. And I hope to see you next, guys. Bye.